Go to threadsmagazine.com and explore our helpful project guides. Each guide is a curated collection of articles and videos on a specific sewing topic, so it's easy to find the information you need. There's the Learn to Sew project guide for beginners, and there are even more guides for every level of sewer, focusing on fitting, sewing tops and pants, working with knit fabrics, and making the perfect pair of jeans. Each project guide includes dozens of posts that lead you through a logical learning sequence. Let Threads Magazine be your guide to a comprehensive sewing education. Welcome to Sewing with Threads, the monthly podcast with the staff of Threads Magazine. I'm your host, Carol Frazier, and today my guest is Maddie Kulig of Madalynne.com. Maddie is the founder, designer, sewist, and driving force behind Madalynne Intimates. Based in Philadelphia, Madalynne Intimates offers DIY lingerie kits, lingerie sewing patterns, in-person and virtual classes, workshops, and retreats. Maddie is also a published author. She released her book, Sew Lingerie, in late 2023, and she's designed more than 10 patterns for simplicity. For people who don't sew, Madalynne Intimates also offers ready-made lingerie, which is lingerie that's made to order by their small but mighty staff of sewists. Welcome, Maddie.
Hello, welcome.
I'm so happy to have you here. It's nice to talk to you. This is going to come out a little bit before our next issue. And for listeners, you can look forward to seeing an article by Maddie in the fall issue of Threads, but we're chatting with her a little bit ahead of time while we're still working on the story. So Maddie, I have a very basic first question, and you can expand on this all you want. It is, why would somebody want to sew their own lingerie? And is it hard to do it?
There are many reasons why someone would want to sew their own lingerie. The most common one is that they don't fit into anything in the stores, which was my issue. Being someone who is very petite, I wanted nice lingerie, and not sexy lingerie, just nice lingerie. But when I went into the stores, they didn't have anything in my size. And I ended up, the only size that they had was in the teenager section. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm 25. Like, I think I've outgrown this. I don't want to, shop in the prepubescent and getting training bras because that is the only thing that will fit me. So that's where my journey started. Another reason why someone might want to sew their own lingerie, again, a lot of Madalynne followers are older people who want to sew it for their daughter or their granddaughter as their first bra, as their first piece of lingerie. And also, it's a great way for moms and daughters to connect. I've had a lot of mom and daughters come to our sewing retreats as like a fun activity. And, lingerie can also go into swimwear too. So mom and daughters coming in to sew lingerie and then getting into swimwear and activewear. A lot of those skills are transferable from lingerie to activewear to swimwear. So that's the most common reason that I see why people make their own lingerie.
And is it hard to do it?
This is a great question. The first pair of lingerie that I sewed, I haven't because of two reasons. One is that, again, I didn't fit into anything that was in stores. Two is that I worked in technical design for URBN, which is the parent company of Anthropologie, Urban Outfitters, Terrain, Beholden, and Free People. And my category was intimates. And at the time, the brand didn't have their own line of intimates. So as part of my role, you would go through some like QC checks because you would outsource, in Anthropologie, they would have, I'm just throwing out names here hypothetically, they would carry Bravo Bella. But before they put it in their stores, it needed to go through their tech department to make sure that like everything was like, okay. So as part of a technical challenge, I was like, if I'm really going to understand this category, I should make one. And it started off as a technical challenge. And also the reason why I was like, one of my categories was also jackets, but working I say 9 to 5, but it really was like a 7 to 7 job. I didn't have a lot of time on the weekends, and I didn't want a sewing project that was going to take months, because what if at the end of that month or those months, there was like a fit issue? Oh, my goodness, there goes like 3 months worth of sewing. So Is it hard to start? One, it's a great, like quick and easy DIY. So I love it for that. Two, it's not hard to sew. What is hard is finding the right supplies. It is like a cook going into the kitchen and having like the best pots and pans, but like they have no ingredients or their ingredients are just like basic. So I feel like that is the hardest thing that I find with a lot of people trying to get in lingerie is that they cannot source the fabrics and the trims. And there are, you can buy some elastics off Amazon, but I have worked very hard to source elastics and fabrics from these same vendors that supply Victoria's Secret. I know that name is like thrown around there. It doesn't have the best connotation right now with reputation, but the same vendors and mills and suppliers that, stock or make elastics for Love and Lemons, Victoria's Secret, Aerie. So we get our elastics from those same suppliers. And once you have the right tools, game changer. Game changer. So it's not hard. What's hard is finding the right supplies. And we sell the DIY kits, which you get all the supplies in, one kit for, let's just say the Margot bralette, but also let's just say you want some more photo elastic because you want to make a pair of panties. We also sell them by the yard as well. DIY kits are also great because once you get into the world of lingerie, there's a whole other jargon that goes with it. Pico elastic, photo elastic, wide band elastic, strap elastic. That the DIY kits are a great way to you to get familiar with them without feeling overwhelmed. And also the amounts, because the amounts vary from project to project and, whatever you're making. So not hard. Supplies is what's hard to get.
Yeah, I haven't done any lingerie sewing for probably at least 20 years. And when I did, I was living in Los Angeles and I was able to get some things there, but it was, and I could get some mail order. There was a good mail order supplier, but matching colors was impossible. You could not get every piece of, 3 or 4 different elastics sometimes in a single garment. And to get them all the same color was not, you couldn't do it. So everything was trimmed with white elastic. That was just kind of the way it ended up being. And it wound up feeling like, oh, I've got the fit's good, the comfort's good, but it's not kind of as cute as I wanted. So I think that if you can buy a kit and you can get, everything to match, that's really nice. And that almost guarantees that you're going to have a product at the end that you think is good looking. And, that's what you want when you're doing this.
And most people come to us for our colors because we do citronelle, we do very Perry, we have dusty rose coming out next month, we have hot pink, we have copper. Those are the colors that you can't find. And we start off with, so whenever we start off with a collection, it starts off with color. And we actually will have all the elastics dyed to match. And then we make our prints in-house and have them printed on meshes. We are making the laces and making sure that the thread and the lace detailing matches the color of the elastics. So we do a lot of like R&D, but that's like my jam. That gets like my sewing juices going when like everything matches, or there's like, if it doesn't match, there's a purpose why it's not matching.
Right. Yeah. That does sound like fun. And I think that can be another way of somebody wanting to get into lingerie. If you think, oh, I like this look, but I'm kind of into the like black thread on a pale peach, trim or something like that has that retro sort of look that I think could be fun if you wanted to do it. And there's the option for that if you're doing it on your own. So you've just, I'm saying just, but it's within the last year, published your book, Sew Lingerie. And it's a wonderful book. We will show a copy of a picture of the cover here on the screen, and it can be found in the show notes as well. It clearly states on the cover via your photograph that it is an inclusive book. Can you talk a little bit more about your goals about inclusivity in sewing?
Yes. Inclusivity is so important to me because growing up in South Florida as a very pale, petite person, if you're not familiar with South Florida, it's tan, a lot of Latinos. I always felt like I didn't fit in, and it didn't really register until I moved up north And I felt like I fit in up north, not saying that there's anything wrong with South Florida, but I was like, this is where I belong. And I just remember that feeling of like not feeling like you fit in, and then going lingerie shopping as well, not feeling like you fit into not only like the sizes that are there, but just like the customer. And that's truly a terrible feeling. And I've had people who meet me who have cried because they're like, when I found you and that you included like my sizes, or also you're very gender inclusive as well, like that meant so much to me. And so when I was writing the book and choosing the models for, who goes inside it, as well as who's going to model the pieces, as well as who's going to go on the cover, it was so important to not continue is not the right word, but to choose the models that would uphold that value that I have. And on the cover, there is the girl that's in the middle. Her name is, oh my goodness, I'm blanking right now. Oh, Liz. I was like, she's going to kill me that I forgot her name. There's Liz. She's in the middle. She is like your standard street model. She's in Boscov's commercials and stuff like that. To the left on the cover is Maddie, which at one point we had like 3 Maddies were her fit models. So it got really confusing in here. She has alopecia. So she is bald and has no hair. And she is, for a long time also felt left out. And to the right of, on the cover is, I'm forgetting her name, Melissa. She is a mom and she has stretch marks on her stomach. And then also in the book is somebody who is 67 and at the time was 67. And she actually, the girl that, the pair that modeled the Hallie and the Henrietta are a mom and daughter duo sewing together, and they really connected via sewing together when they got older. And the Mona, who is the older woman in the Henrietta, she actually is a breast cancer survivor. So after the shoot, when we did the whole shoot with all the styles in it, she came up to me, or no, her daughter text messaged me a couple days after and said, "You have no idea how long it's been since my mom felt pretty." And doing that, the fact that you chose her for that shoot and that she is going to be included, she couldn't stop talking about it the last couple of days. And that to me is like, that's everything to me. That you can change someone's demeanor and the way that they look at themselves and the way that, and I feel like the way that you look at yourself has a butterfly effect and the way that you look onto the world. And that is so important. So it's just a very important motto in my business model to include everybody. I try my best. It's out of habit if I'm like girls, but I try to say all people as much as I can. Sometimes you're like ladies and you're like, oh man, I shouldn't say that. But again, it's just out of habit. But I try to encourage all people to wear lingerie. And I've had virtual fittings with men who are older and they come on to the virtual fitting and they are so embarrassed. They're like, "Do you have a lot of people who do this?" I'm like, "A lot of people who do what? Wear lingerie?" Yes. They're like, "No, I mean like men." I'm like, "Yeah, you shouldn't feel ashamed by the way that you want to dress. If you want to wear a skirt and you want to pull a Harry Styles, go ahead." But again, it's just going back to that. It doesn't matter who you are or what gender you identify as. You can wear well-fitting lingerie, whether it's me-made or ready-made.
Do you think that there's a special role for lingerie within that whole acceptance feeling, more so maybe even than what you wear on the outside, or as much as?
Lingerie is the closest thing that you wear to your heart. And I feel like it has such a connection to you feeling inclusive. It's the first thing you put on. It's like the first impression. So the first impression that you have of yourself when you get dressed is when you put on lingerie. And I feel like it has a very big impact on how you view yourself and then how you step out and view the world and present yourself to the world.
I love the way that you articulate this as it being something for you. I was thinking about the old sort of mother's thing with like, wear clean underwear in case you get hit by a car. So your nice underwear is for you getting hit by a car. That is really crazy. It's much better that you do it for yourself. So what do you think are the biggest challenges for people when they're sewing lingerie?
One, as I stated before, is getting the right supplies. And I've done my best to provide the right supplies and also make them affordable and shipping to all countries. The next thing is definitely fits. I feel like fits and pattern making is one of those things that are just so intimidating to people that they just don't even go near it. They just don't even when I am teaching a retreat and it'll be like length and shorten, a pattern, which is like the easiest alteration to make. And like, I'll just like cut the pattern, like usually on like the second day. The first day we do the fit sessions. The second day we'll do all the pattern alterations, and I'll go one by one and do everybody's, because I think it's a great opportunity for people to learn from other people's fit issues. Makes you a better fitter. And I'll like cut the pattern, and the amounts, not the amounts, the sound of the gas, like, and I'm like, I am just cutting paper. That like, we are not cutting skin. This is not double bypass surgery. I'm cutting paper. If anything, if I get it wrong, I just tape it back together. So I feel like people get so intimidated by pattern making, but really pattern making are these, once you know there are a couple foundational techniques. And once you learn and understand those foundational techniques, you can almost pattern make anything. It's slashing and closing, slashing and opening. And then there are a couple other like fundamentals. I don't want to get too much into it because that's like a whole other podcast. But there are a few fundamentals that you use everywhere. And I wish people knew that, because if they did know that, I feel like they would have a little bit more confidence and courage to take a stab at it. But they get so intrigued by it. And especially with underwire bras, because there are so many components that affect one another. Because if you change the wire seam line, then you got to make sure that the cups still fit in. So fitting is definitely an issue, but there is a methodical way to fit a bra. So when you fit a bra, an underwire bra, you just don't go like, oh, the straps are this and the band's that. Usually it's band, frame, cups, straps. So you follow that methodology or that step-by-step process, and that really helps too. So fitting is a big issue, but there are some standards to fitting a bra as well as some fundamentals to pattern making that if you understand the two, really makes it a lot easier.
So you were mentioning the underwires, and this is something I've always wondered about, because I don't think I've made an underwire bra. No, maybe I did make one, but it was a long time ago. And I've wondered now, like, how do you know what size of an underwire you need for A, your pattern, and B, for yourself? I mean, should you try those on kind of before you choose what size pattern to use, so that you know that the wire fits you, and then you get the pattern that the wire fits into? How does that work?
Oh, this is like a whole book, but I'll try to break it down into the simplest terms. How to choose an underwire. So there is such confusion around not only the sizing of bras, but also the sizing of underwires. One of the biggest reasons why I think that there is such confusion is that no underwires. So a question that I get a lot regarding the book, when, a normal bra maker goes into So Lingerie and they're like, where's the wire size chart? And I'm like, we actually don't have a wire size chart. Like, why not? How do you not have a wire size chart in So Lingerie? I'm like, because I have to assume that people reading So Lingerie they could live in South Africa, they could live in Australia, they could live in New Zealand, they could live in Britain or UK, they could live in Germany. And if I said to get to get a classic underwire, well, the classic underwire that I might be referring to might be different than the classic underwire that somebody in South Africa is referring to, or that somebody in Australia is referring to. So I wish that the bra making gods would get together and have some sort of like international standard of bra making sizing, but they don't. They didn't. Not yet. I'm working on it. So there's no standardization within sizing of underwires. So a classic underwire at Madalynne is different than a classic underwire at whoever, in whatever country. So that, I think, is a huge reason. Second reason is that usually when a pattern maker is developing a bra or any underwire style, they will say what the recommendation is. Now, the reason why I didn't do that for Soul Lingerie is that in the book, I show you how to manipulate a wire seam line to your underwire, which I intended for people to use. But in the new Penelope that we came out with, it had a V-wire separator, and people were asking, what size V-wire separator does it use? I said, it uses a 65, but I'd rather you refer to the wire that is actually on the pattern. I gave like a little outline so that you can compare that to wherever you're getting it from. So that's the reason why there's such confusion. So how do you find your right size? So step number 1, find a pattern. Let's just say it's the right underwire bra from Soul Lingerie. Step number 2 is find out what underwire is meant for that bra, classic underwire bra. Then I would use the measuring guide to measure what size you are. Usually it involves a full bust and an under bust. Sometimes there is a high bust, but that wasn't used for Soul Lingerie. Then you find what size that you think you should. Let's just say I'm throwing out an arbitrary number here, 34. I would suggest buying a 32, a 34, and a 36. Things happen in sewing, things happen in fitting, things happen with your fabric that you might have to go up or down a size, but at least you have those 3 sizes on hand. Now you have your size that you're supposed to make. Next thing is to make sure that the U shape of that wire fits your U shape, which is called your inframammary folds. It's where the breast tissue comes away from the chest wall, and making sure that U shape matches your U shape. And many times it doesn't. So then you have to start your search of finding an underwire that does match your U shape and then adjusting your pattern to match that. Everything starts with the underwire. I taught a class at a local university, and they brought me in for their final foundational class for their seniors. Their dresses had already been made, and then they were going to build in a bra into it. And I was like, no, you did everything backwards. You needed to start with the bra and then build your dress on top. So the same thing is with underwires. I would suggest just buying a bunch of underwires and seeing which one best fits you, and then adjusting your patterns to fit that underwire. Because once you have an underwire that fits, it's like wearing a killer pair of shoes. They can be so comfortable, or they can be a killer pair of shoes, literally. So it really starts with just finding an underwire that fits. And you can use a fitting band, which is basically sewing an underwire bra without the cups. You can transfer the U shape onto manila or cardstock paper and holding it up to your inframammary fold to make sure that U shape fits. Or you can literally put the underwire up to your breast and seeing if it fits. So those are the ways to find an underwire. And it definitely is a journey. I usually say expect about 3 to 4 minimum bras for full bust in order to get your right underwire minimum. And usually with smaller sizes like A through D cups, usually 2 to 3. So yeah, I know that sounds like a lot, but you learn a lot about your body when you actually go through that process.
Well, and I can imagine once you've done it, as long as you are more or less staying the same size and shape, you can just carry on and make as many as you want after that. It's kind of a one-time fitting thing. And that's so much better than every time you want or need a bra to go to a store and start from scratch again with what they have, which is often not good. And, you're stuck with whatever shape they offer in the store. So this is actually, ultimately, it's an investment in like a future of nice lingerie that's relatively easy to get. I feel like the bras I've made were surprisingly fast to sew. I was shocked because there's a lot of little pieces and a lot of things that you have to do, but it came out much more quickly. All of a sudden it's there in front of you, and you didn't even remember going through all the processes. And it's really can be a lot of fun to do. Yeah, for anybody who hasn't done it, I would certainly recommend it, and maybe don't give up if the first one isn't a great fit.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, definitely not. I mean, you should have seen my first pair of underwear. They were fugly. So one of my favorite quotes or mottos or whatever you want to call it, euphemisms, is fail. Fail is not something to be ashamed of. Fail to me is first attempt in learning. So you learn. It's a learning opportunity. You feel hard, you feel fast, you feel forward, you move on.
That's actually a great thing to remind everybody who's sewing, because there's going to always be failures. I think that, for example, if you're making underwear bottoms, you can often find a good pattern and then just keep on making those too. And that tends to be like a quick win, which is nice. The bras may take a little longer, but sometimes the bottom half is a little bit easier to do if you get the pattern that fits you. I was going to say, I can't say the word panties on this thing because for some reason it's one of those words that I don't like. People don't like the word moist. I don't know why. Growing up, my sisters and I were always like, ooh, panties. So we say underwear. But I can say, how did you gotten over it just by just sheer usage?
I've gotten over at this point.
I will be working toward that.
There are a lot of panties in the studio. So I got over a long time ago. Panties, knickers, whatever, thongs, G-strings, whatever you want to call it.
Right. So when you're sewing, if you're making lingerie, what do you prioritize, comfort or looks?
The designer in me says looks. I wish you could spend a day in here when all my girls are in here and we're doing like a brainstorm sesh. Like we get so into like the brainstorming and the color patterns, the color matching, the pattern mixing, like that if the fit is off a little bit, that's okay. As long as it's not painful, like painful is a different story, but like as long as it's like in the ballpark as like, it's cute, you look great. Like, I think that I am definitely more into the look rather than the fit. Not saying, and that doesn't mean that fit isn't important, but let's just say, I mean that in the sense of if I made something and the fit wasn't 100%, but the design was incredible, I'd be like, it's okay. I'm still gonna wear this out and rock it. It's fine. I'll put a jacket over it and I'll still feel great.
Okay, that's very good to know. That's very good information. I think that everybody should have some underwear that is so comfortable you're not aware that you have it on, and some underwear that you can go out and know that it looks amazing, even if there's a little pinch here.
And we wear a lot of our lingerie as outerwear too. So,
I think when people see some of the images in your article, they will understand why, because they're so pretty. They're just so pretty, and they're beautiful. They have a sort of youthfulness, but they're also sophisticated. And that's just a really nice area where I think your designs land, where it's not Fredericks of Hollywood by any stretch. And it's also not Target preteen. It's somewhere where like a nice, adult person might want to be seen wearing them. So that's good.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, and thank you so much for joining us, Maddie. Everybody, please look for your fall issue. It should be coming out in mid-August, and you can read about some bra fitting tips from Maddie. Very helpful, including the sequence for getting all the different parts of your bra to fit, and also in your local bookstore, or I would imagine Amazon.com. Check out her book for more information. She's got lots of styles in there and lots of things to try. Thanks again, Maddie.
Thanks so much for having me. And I'm so excited to see the feature and the fall issue.
Thank you to our guests for joining us, and thanks to all of you for listening. Please remember to send your comments, questions, and suggestions to th@threadsmagazine.com. And please like, comment, and subscribe wherever you are listening. Until next time, keep on sewing with threads.